Okay, in this video we're going to be going quickly over how to set up the voltage and current sensor in, this is a tiny whoop, but it can be really any flight controller that has that set up in it. So this is not just for the small brush, this is really a lesson for any Betaflight flight controller. And what I have is I have my special sensor here set up so that I can measure voltage and current draw instantaneously. If you don't have that, you can easily use just a voltmeter. You can check the voltage of your battery beforehand and then plug it in and then do the things that I'm going to show you. As long as you do it quickly enough so that the voltage is similar, you get some accurate results. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in my flight controller here. USB beeps. We'll go ahead and connect it. So now you can see here, this is what it looks like, and there's a special power and battery tab. That's what we're interested in. We're going to click on that and it's going to open this up. Now right now I have no battery plugged into it, so the voltage up here is at 0.1 volts. I'm going to go ahead and set this up so we can start measuring. Now this has its own battery pack, so it doesn't draw any current from the battery, so we can get an accurate current draw rating. Now I'm going to plug the battery in on this side. If you didn't see the previous test when I used this to prove that the power whoop or the JST 2.0 connectors allow for more power to the whoop, check that out in the tag top right hand corner. And then I'm just going to go ahead and plug in my whoop on the other end, and we'll start seeing how much current it draws just chilling without actually flying. So okay, we can see that the battery is 4.36 volts and I'm drawing 0.55 amps currently. Okay, so now we have up here 4.2 volts. And it says, this is the interesting thing, it says I'm drawing 22.4 amps. That's not a thing. So what we can do is we can come in here, we're going to go ahead and say yes to onboard ADC for both the voltage and current meter. We don't want to change that. Minimum cell voltage, maximum cell voltage, we're going to leave that alone. Warning cell voltage 3.5 is good. Now capacity, you can, if you use the same exact pack every time, and this is a 230 milliamp hour battery, we could put that in here, but I'm not going to miss that. What we're really looking to change the scale here. So right now it says 4.1 volts and the scale is 110. So let's go ahead and do 112. We'll go over here and save it. And see, now it jumped up to 4.2. Okay, so let's do one more. 4.2. We don't have a second decimal place. Okay, so that jumped up to 4.3. So I'm gonna drop it down to like 113 on the scale. So now we're back to 4.2 volts, and I know that's close to the 4.25 or 4.3, which is where this is. And this is slowly dropping because, and that's another thing, you have to do this quickly. You can't just take one reading and then change this because your battery voltage is constantly dropping as it's powering the drone. But we'll say that's good for now. That's close enough. And now we'll drop down to this. Now this is crazy off. This one wasn't too far off. We just made a couple small changes. This one is very far off. We're not pulling 22 amps. So the scale, let's just jump to like 4,000. Okay, so now we're down to 1.25 amps, but we're still at 0.55 is the actual current draw. Okay, so now let's double that. Let's go to 8,000. Okay, now we're getting close. Now we're at 0.62 when this is at 0.55. So let's do 8,500. Let's see how close that gets us. All right, so that is 0.59. We're at 0.56. So let's do 8,800. So you just kind of have to like work your way down to get to it. Let's try 8,900. And I'll explain why this is important here in a second. I'm trying to just do this. It's kind of a moving target, so if you do it quickly, makes things a little bit easier. Okay, that's close enough. 0.55 here, 0.55 here. Okay, sweet. So I've saved this, and this is all working properly. It says 4.2 volts here, 4.23. I'm drawing 0.55 amps, and it says 0.55, 0.56 amps. So that's all working properly. Cool. Now let me explain to you why this is so important. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect from this, and we'll unplug this from the pack. And we'll unplug it from USB so the VTX does not overheat. So that's important because when you're flying with a OSD, it's going to display the voltage and how many milliamps you have used in your pack. And that's very valuable information to know when to come back. So even if you have an OSD, then it's a no-brainer. You definitely need to go ahead and set up and calibrate the voltage, because when it's not giving you the correct voltage, that means that you just basically have to learn, like, okay, well, it says 3.1 volts on the screen, but I know that that's actually when I land, I have more voltage. calibrating it, make sure that the display on your screen is exactly what it should be. Now, what if you don't have an OSD? Well, it's still important because there is the low cell voltage cutoff. Basically, if the cell voltage drops below what you set in this, which I think was like 3.3, if it thinks the voltage is below 3.3, it basically cuts off power to the drone so you don't damage the battery pack. Well, what if you're at like 3.7 volts and the flight controller thinks that you're dropping below 3.3? You'll still have flight time left in your pack, but your quad will basically just like stop flying. It won't put power to the motors. So even if you don't have an OSD, it's really important to calibrate the voltage and current sensor so that your flight controller knows what is actually being used by the battery. Okay, so that's something that just is kind of a nitpicky thing, but I think it's very valuable for people to set up and do properly. But yeah, I just wanted to do that to my tiny whoop and bring you all along for the ride so that you could see how to do that yourself if you wanted to. Again, this is kind of a special instrument, but all it's doing is measuring voltage and current, and you can easily do that with a voltmeter. Doesn't take anything special to do that. So I hope that was insightful and you learned something, and I will see you next time.